Now have the book launch of The Never Dying Fire, authored by Luc Venet. This will be followed by a discussion with Devdip Ganguli, faculty member, Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education, and the author's brother, Rakhal Venet.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us. So I have the immense pleasure of sitting with Mr. Rakhal Venet, who is the brother of the author who has brought out this book. The author's name is Luc Venet. Those of you who are from Pondicherry, if you have been here for a few decades around the ashram or Auroville, you've surely either known or heard of Luc Venet. Luc now lives in France, and he actually released this book in French. It's a biography of Sri Aurobindo, written in French, which has now been translated into English and released by Blue One Ink Publications. So I'm here with Rakhal to talk about this particular book. Luc himself is not able to join us. He's not here in India. He's in France at the moment. But Rakhal, thank you for being here with us, and welcome to the session.
Well, I am also very happy to be here. And thank you very much for this festival, where I have learned a lot of things.
So I want to start with a few thoughts, and would love to hear what you have to say. What I find interesting is that we all know that Sri Aurobindo does not belong to a particular country, even though he is certainly of India and his message resonates. This is the place of his birth and his home. But the message of Sri Aurobindo is really for the world. And what I find interesting is that this particular biography has been written by a French gentleman, no doubt somebody who was living here or who has visited here many times. But this is another perspective. And you have been here in the festival for the last 2 days. You have no doubt seen that this is an environment which is very deeply rooted in an Indian Indic perspective. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about what you think is the importance or relevance of other lenses on Sri Aurobindo from outside India.
Well, you know, I really feel that maybe first of all, I would like to express my gratitude, my deep gratitude, and really my astonishment even, because I am not of such sensitivity to appreciate this kind of grand conference with big people talking and so on. And there I have been so surprised and so deeply fulfilled by the quality of the speakers, the quality of the audience also. I come from France, and I can tell you that, yeah, it may happen sometime that in an assembly like this, there is some bursting out of sincerity and truth expressed, but it's pretty rare. And there I have seen how much it was present, and I have felt the atmosphere full of a real sincere effort to go deeper and to go beyond limitation and differences. So thank you very much for, I feel I am privileged, in fact, to be part of this, and I am astonished because I am probably one of the only foreigner here. So I will try to let you benefit of my foreign gaze. Yes, I have been struck in particular by, very interested by the book written by Parto about the Sanatana Dharma, and I have bought it. I want to deepen it. Sri Aurobindo talks about it as a very, very important, I don't know how to qualify this. And what I have understood also, and which touched me, is that this is a universal vision. So it means that, and this is what I have felt in this assembly, I feel that with Sanata Dharma and its truth, everyone from humanity can feel at home wherever he is, and in particular in India. So this is a little bit what I am claiming for. I am claiming to be heard. I am claiming for Luc, who has done something very special at the point of view of a biography on Sri Aurobindo, to be heard and maybe to develop a certain interest and collaboration around something which is, well, quite different, in fact. Is that enough for you?
Yes, that's
to
great.
Start with?
That's a good place to start with. And Rakhal, I want to also, before we launch into, I mean, we don't have much time. We have about 20 minutes, but very briefly, before we discuss the book itself, I think it would be interesting for us to know a little bit about, both for your brother Luc and for yourself, your engagement with India, with Sri Aurobindo. What brought you here and why are you here? And that gives us a context in which to appreciate the work that has come out.
I first came in India, in the ashram, and then soon after in Auroville, in 1969, at the very beginning of Auroville. I was called, literally called, because I knew nothing about India before. I had never heard specifically about it. But my brother came back from a stay of 3 months where he was mathematical teacher in the school of the ashram. And he brought with him a lot of very interesting testimonies. The first time I saw the picture of the mother, you know this picture where she is smiling irresistibly. Irresistibly. The first time I saw this picture, it is strange because I knew her, but I never met her in this life. And she was smiling vividly to me, and she was kind of saying, okay, now you get it? Will you come? And so, yes, of course, I will come. Of course, I will come. But I was pushed much quicker than I thought, and within 2 months, I was in the ashram, out of a lot of very interesting circumstances. So I started to participate in Auroville, which was a natural space and game, if I can use this word, was calling me. And I enjoyed so much. I was a young man at that time, and I was not completely formed, I would say, as an adult or as a young adult. I needed to be still in contact with my country and other activities. So over a period of 15 years, from roughly 70 to 85, I stayed 10 years in Auroville, and 5 years I was in France. Then in 85, the situation in Auroville was quite tight. The mother had left her body. There was a lot of difficulty, and at a point there was the idea in the air that Auroville was finished. Auroville cannot be finished. But anyway, it was an atmosphere like this. And I flew with my wife and my first child at that time back to France in 85 then, in the midst of Paris, with a complete change of life, where I kept a strong contact with Mother and Sri Aurobindo, but not so much with Auroville. And during 20 years, I had an activity of trainer where I learned about myself, in fact. Yeah? When you teach, when you are a trainer, you learn very much about yourself. And then, really out of the blue almost, I came back for 1 month holiday in Auroville, 1 month holiday in Auroville. Can you imagine? How is it possible? And after 3 days, it was clear that I should come back. And I am here since 2007. So my thing is I have been busy with video editing about the community and its activities, and about a program for newcomers. I have also continued to learn, as you can see. Now about my relation with my brother and why I feel relevant, I feel legitimate to be here amongst you to present this book is because since the very beginning where I could read the first page were really quite finalized, I felt really an incredible presence of Sri Aurobindo, more than any other biography I read so far. It's amazing because Sri Aurobindo was not so much in favor, apparently, about biography.
So I want to actually, circle to what you are saying, because Sri Aurobindo has this very well-known, letter where he says, neither you nor anyone else knows anything at all about my life. It has not been on the surface for man to see. This was a letter of Sri Aurobindo to somebody who was trying to write a biography. And yet, I think you will yourself be aware that a number of biographies did come out, and he himself participated and worked with that. So I'm curious to hear how you reflect on this view. Can one write a biography on somebody like Sri Aurobindo?
Well, what is striking for me now is that, in fact, he didn't say, do not write. He said, it's not so easy, and it is nothing to see outside. It is inside that it happens. So he is not forbidding us to write and to try to see inside. He's just taking care to say, take care, it's not outside. You cannot really bring a testimony of my life if you remain outside. And shall I dare to say that the devotion of Indian people have maybe I'm really cautious about what I'm saying because it may be not completely true, but there is a deep respect of the Guru in Indian Sikh. And so maybe it has brought the biography of Sri Aurobindo to be respectful of this trend, not to touch the inside. Where I can say that Luke has overcome this and he has tried to touch outside. And that, I think, is what maybe is striking in his biography. It is an attempt to understand what is the human behind the God. It is quite normal to put Sri Aurobindo in a pedestal kind of, and then to remain who we are, human. But you remember also that he was very much asking Nirod Baran not to have this attitude of considering that he is really beyond the human difficulty, and that he was considering himself completely assuming the human condition, but trying with, of course, something else that was the characteristic of the avatar.
I mean, one of the things that really what I find very appealing about Sri Aurobindo is that it is very difficult to put him in any kind of a box. So all perspectives, whether it's an Eastern perspective or a Western perspective, are really legitimate in my view, especially in a place that seeks to arrive at synthesis. So I'm fully with you on the fact that as long as these attempts are sincere, each one has its place for a particular purpose in the bigger scheme of things. What really, coming to the book itself, I was really I was really taken aback by the lucid quality of the language. So I'm aware that this is a translation. I also did look at the French original, where I feel the same thing. And whoever has done the translation has done a really good work. I don't know who that is. But the translation really is able to bring out that similar quality that is there in the French original. And I just want to demonstrate what I'm talking about by reading just one paragraph. I know we'll do extracts later, but I want to just give you a feel of how the book deals with a certain external event. The event in question is Sri Aurobindo's arriving in India in 1893 at Apollo Bandar in Bombay. And this is how the book begins. This is the very first paragraph. It goes like this. Following the convention of using Aurobindo for before Pondicherry and Sri Aurobindo for after Pondicherry. So it begins like this. Aurobindo contemplated the liquid darkness about him. At long last, a pale line ruptured the horizon. India was drawing near. To the throbbing of its engines, the steamer headed towards the growing light. Burning off the last shreds of morning mist, an enormous sun soared into the sky, revealing the outlines of a city. The day dawned on Bombay. So this kind of, it creates, it's not just Sri Aurobindo came back to India on such and such date in 1893 on such and such steamer. It really puts you into that world. And I'm wondering if you would like to say something about the style of the book and how it has been written.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to say that when Luc started to write this book, he was a complete novice. He was a complete layman in terms of writing. Yeah. And very soon he met with a lady. Her name is Marie. She is French. She does not speak English, but she's a specialist about helping people to write. And she is very, very strong. She didn't know Sri Aurobindo. At least she is not particular disciple. She is Buddhist, but she was very tough, very strongly requesting a perfect coming out, a perfect put on stage of the element that Luc was bringing in. So they worked together for 8 years, and then she has helped me to bring the element that she felt he really wanted to express through various writing techniques. One of them is obviously to put things in context. And he did a lot of research in the newspaper of that time so that almost all the event could be interlinked with the action itself, which I think is bringing meaning, bringing strength, yeah? More than any other biography. Then she did not refrain him from letting his imagination imagine what was the state of Sri Aurobindo. And there is another passage which there is no writing about Sri Aurobindo saying that he is like this, but obviously there is some hints where you can guess that this has happened. The exact word that he would have used himself are maybe not the word that Luc used, but I feel that Sri Aurobindo is not bound by the form. Is not telling you, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. No, he is telling you, get the true attitude in yourself, try to reach the spirit, and then express. Yes, how many people he has encouraged to read, and he's encouraged not to read but to write, So, yes, this passage that you just read is just amazing because there is a lot of contradiction, materially speaking. The pale line arriving to Bombay cannot be like this. The pale line of the sun rising is behind him when you go to Mumbai, and then the city which is coming out of detaching itself to a bigger sun cannot be also because the sun is rising on the other side. Yeah, so the exactitude of the material world, of the material action, are not enough to describe what is the attempt that this marvelous consciousness of Sri Aurobindo has tried to bring for us. And I feel Sri Aurobindo is none else than us. We are legitimate to make Sri Aurobindo our. We are legitimate to imagine. We are provided we are sincere. And we can make mistakes, but it does not matter because we learn and we are here to learn. That's what I wanted to say.
Very nice, Luc. Luc, Rakhal, sorry.
Luc is speaking to me, maybe.
Yes. So, Rakhal, what I think we can do is maybe why don't you choose one extract that you would like to read from the book, unless you have some other things that you would like to say, and then we'll have 5 minutes for questions so that we can wrap up by 5 p.m.
Still working. There is this passage which is from chapter 1, which is in the subchapter dedicated to the Baroda government, where it is described what he was doing and so on. There's also a passage about Lakshmi Vilas, which is the castle, the palace of the Maharaja. And then there is a paragraph. I hope I don't bother you too much with my French accent. His experience in Bombay remained vivid. You remember he had an experience when he arrived on the Apollo Bonder, where he suddenly his consciousness expanded completely and brought him into a state of being which he never could imagine before, but that he related to the writing of some passage of the Upanishad that he had done previously. Anyway, this is the experience he's relating to. His experience in Bombay remained vivid. He could recall the sovereign state of awareness which had seized him beyond all contingencies, outside the world's mental or sensory experience. To his astonishment, the stamp of the hushed silence had lingered within him. Some indefinable presence remained in the background of his activities. Whenever he checked his thoughts and withdrew within himself, the silence came back like a bedrock of unshakable peace and impersonal stillness that dissolved the world's agitation. He had grown accustomed to flowing into this space in the midst of his work, always emerging from these moments of disconnection with a renewed energy. Yet, Aurobindo had no plan to turn to a spiritual life. Outside his work, his mind was focused on poetry and on what seemed the extreme opposite of poetry, politics. So you see, Sri Aurobindo has never written that. Sri Aurobindo has never indicated so precisely what was his experience about his work and how the Bombay experience came into his life. But
I haven't read the whole book, Rakhal, but one of the things that I'm struck by when I leaf through it is the selection of quotations. Really wonderful selection of quotations interspersed with the text. And it's not evident why certain quotations are placed in that place, but you realize that he's drawing upon the experience or the inspiration rather than just following a chronological textual order. So really a book that I look forward to reading, and please convey also our congratulations to your brother. We have a few minutes, so if there are any questions that you would like to ask, it's open.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question, if any.
Anybody a question?
So one observation, and unfortunately you haven't read it, but you have. So the observation is the three biographies or so-called biographies of Sri Aurobindo that I have read have all been written by two French, and this is going to be the second French, and the third one by an American. So I don't know why Indian biographers haven't attempted this. My question is, suppose you were to compare Satprem's Adventure of Consciousness or Peter Heese's The Lives of Sri Aurobindo. How do you situate this book?
I just want to add that there are Indian biographies of Sri Aurobindo,
Sure.
but there is, and that's a longer conversation.
But Satprem approach is much more completely, not so much on the outward happening. It's really an introduction to the work of Sri Aurobindo. So I would not call it a biography, actually. It's not the life of Sri Aurobindo. It is the thought of Sri Aurobindo. The adventure of consciousness is an expression which is being drawn from Savitri beautifully, and it expresses exactly what the book is about. Now, for Peter Is, since the very beginning of the book, says that I don't want to be looked as a disciple of Sri Aurobindo. I want to be looked as a disciple, not a disciple, but a scientific recounting the fact. So he is very factual. He is bringing a lot of things. Of course, he has an intention, he has a spirit, he has a choice also. But and then I have enjoyed very much both books, of course. Satprem books have been really very, very important for many people to come to Auroville and to Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Peter is also so enjoyable because each time each time I go through the life of Sri Aurobindo, I am so delighted. But some dimension is missing, which I found in Luc's book. And I must say that the first time I read Luc's book, consistently, it was, Sri Aurobindo was so concretely present. And I have seen that it is an experience which has repeated itself amongst the new people who have read the book. By the way, I think it's a book which is addressed to people who don't know Sri Aurobindo, because there is an introduction which is comprehensive enough, and people who know him also.
Sri Aurobindo, being such an infinite personality, I feel that there are truly infinite ways of approaching him. And so thank you for sharing another perspective, and we look forward to reading it. Thank you. I think we are out of time.
Thank you,
Thanks to
Rakhal
you.
and Devdip.
Thank you very much.
We request you both to unveil the book for the official book launch at the Pondy Lit Fest.